theater, live television, live stream doesn't always go as you planned. We'll get that technology of Reverend Levitt worked out for another day, but I'm going to tap dance, I think, up here this morning. I want to talk with you. Alethea says, go for it. I think she's planning to accompany me. I don't know what I want to talk to you about. That's the truth of this moment. Except God knows. And so I'm just going to be patient while I get over the shock of live theater and be present to the Spirit of God. That's all any of us can do at any moment of life, is choose to be connected to the presence of God that is alive in us. When we are in our only human self, well, I'll speak for myself. When I am in my only human self, I stumble and fumble and make errors and wish I could take words back and want a mulligan, a do-over, and wish I could do it always perfectly the first time. I just breathe and remember that the wisdom of God is present in me. And if I am connected to and listening to that and practicing the presence, as a long ago Saint Brother Lawrence said, if I am practicing the presence of God, then the turmoil may show up, my only human self may stumble, and yet I have the capacity to stand in the place of God in the world and in my life. I've been fond of saying lately that God can only show up in the world when we show up. There is no other way for God's presence to be seen or felt or heard in this physical world except through us. We are the vehicles of God's living energy. How do we stay connected to that presence of God when life feels untethered, when the storms of life are raging, when we don't know what's happening next? We do that through the clear and simple intention and spiritual practices. Reverend Johanna always opens our time together with a statement of truth, a powerful affirmation, which is meant to lift us into the energy of God's truth alive in us. We know that we have the power of our spoken word, that is a vibratory energy, a frequency of God that is a tool to be used for good in the world. So one practice is to guard carefully our speech and never use negative prayer by speaking those things aloud
Aloha.
that we don't
It's
want to
great
show
be
up
back
in
with
our
you.
life.
I thought if you didn't mind, we would start off with some Unity basics. According to Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, in his book, The 12 Powers, September power is order.
We are going to
Order
stay
is the
in that
outgrowth of our
truth
complete agreement.
that our word is the tool with which we shape and change and mold the life we are living. So I invite you to be mindful of your speech. And when I'm teaching homiletics, the art of preaching, to our licensed teacher candidates, I often remind them that I undo myself with sometimes sarcastic humor, and I speak things that I do not want to occur. And you try and pull them back. Or maybe you say, cancel, not for me. No, I didn't really mean that, God. And thank goodness, the practice and the activity of God saves us from our foibles. But the power of speech is this infinite tool of creation that we possess. And when we combine our words with our feeling nature and intention, a capacity to feel and vision what we are speaking before it exists, then we bring the power of God's creative energy into the space in which we live and draw to us that which we would desire. So perhaps there are some of us listening today who have a health challenge going on. And what we tend to do, what I observe and what I know in myself, is when a health challenge shows up, sometimes in our mind and sometimes in our speaking aloud, we get into awfulizing about it. How awful it is, and I don't know how to deal with this, and I can't face that. When I'm in that space, I start words of power as soon as I can to get conscious, snap myself out of it, and say, don't you believe it. Don't listen to that thought in your mind, because that does not have to be the truth. Diagnosis does not equal God's truth. And so when we resist the idea that we can be anything other than the perfect pattern of God, when we can believe that deeply to the core of our being, when we can image that with our mind's vision, then we have the capacity to heal from within, to call on that internal physician that is God to help us heal. I have used the prayer for protection as a healing practice. I have used scripture passages that speak of the power that is present in me to lift me out of a space of frustration or despair or not knowing the answer, to choose to express more fully, more deeply the life that is God within me, even when something like a diagnosis looks the opposite of God's life in me, or seems to have dimmed it or negatively impacted it. I don't believe it. I'll work with it, because that's the circumstance we're in. We must face where we are and then apply our spiritual wisdom. And if our understanding of God needs to be expanded so that we can expand into a greater truth of who we are, then we turn to our spiritual practices. We pray from that source of God, from that power that Jesus talked about. If you haven't thought about it before, the Lord's Prayer, in whatever version you choose, is a series of affirmative statements. They are commands to the universe, to the energy of God, to say, this is how my life is. This is what I claim. This is what I choose. This is the truth on which I will stand. This is the rock of my life. And so the Lord's Prayer is a powerful experience when we let go of the rote process. I can tell you the rote process doesn't always last. You've probably witnessed me up here on the platform when I have too many channels going on in my mind and I'm trying to process too much information. I can forget the words to a prayer that I have memorized and known since, 5, when I started in Sunday school. That's a few decades ago. And so I work with the power of those words to have them embedded in my being. Myrtle Fillmore was the co-founder of the Unity Movement, along with her husband, Charles. And in Myrtle's writings, she says, we must command the flesh to comply with spirit. We must demand that this body and whatever is going on with it aligns with its original God-designed pattern so that we can experience, again, that renewed health and vitality if we are in the experience of some medical diagnosis. I've had some unusual experiences with the Lord's Prayer. About 15 years ago, I made a pilgrimage with two spiritual sisters from my Unity community in Bremerton, Washington. We traveled on a pilgrimage together to the Central Plateau of Brazil and the healing center of a gentleman named John of God. So called because he had the ability to heal through the activity alive in him that was God. God was definitely present in the world through João de Deus, John of God. And so we traveled to this healing center. And the experience while you're there, on the days that he comes and there are healing sessions, is you go to a big gathering room, about the size of our chapel, if you've actually been here physically. And there, you're organized by groups, and they'll be doing orientation, and then certain groups will progress into the meditation space, and you queue up then to have your time in front of John of God, where he assesses for you what are the answers to your questions, your spiritual concerns that you present. And so groups will go in. And as you're waiting, you are in a meditation space, and that room is about double the size of our chapel. And it would be at least half filled with individuals from around the community and others who have been there at the healing center for their own pilgrimage and have now been asked to participate in the meditation. They are in meditation and ongoing prayer as an energy source to support this work that is taking place. And so you walk through into this space, and you're in a little hallway, a little lane between all the chairs as you make your way up to John of God. And you can literally feel the power of prayer in that space. You know this is holy ground. You know that God is active and present and working in and through all of the individuals in this room. But it's also going on out in that gathering room where you might still be if you're in one of the later groups called. And in the gathering room, they're doing orientation and they're sharing interesting experiences and perhaps transformational stories. And then all of a sudden there'll come a call from the meditation room. They need more people in prayer. And so you are asked, the whole room of several hundred people is asked to join the other several hundred people in the Lord's Prayer. Now in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. So sometimes it's asked that people pray in their native language. And there are people there from all over the world on pilgrimage to see John of God. And we all raise the Lord's Prayer in our own native language. And you would think it sounds like a jumbled mess, like a Zoom call when everybody's trying to talk at once. You know what that's like. No, it is this song of God lifted on all the voices in whatever language raised in that space, raising the consciousness of everyone present Christward toward that infinite power. It is a demonstration to stand in the moment where definitely more than two are gathered with the intent to have God's presence active in that space. Sometimes we would pray in English, everyone in the room. Sometimes it would be Portuguese, and those of us who didn't speak would just listen. Whatever the language of the prayer, it's much like the smile message in Daily Word today. The words are not so necessary because you can feel the frequency, the vibration shifting and changing as hundreds of voices collectively speak this prayer together. It's like feeling the energy of the most powerful intention you ever held in your heart and your mind for your own life, magnified by several hundred. An amazing experience. On my last morning at the Healing Center, I was in the gathering room waiting to be called to go into the meditation space and to be in front of John of God. And someone came out and asked everyone to pray, and not just pray, but this time to hold hands as we prayed. And on my right was my dear spiritual sister with whom I'd made this journey. And on my left was a local Brazilian woman, stranger. Stranger in one sense, together in the Spirit of God, in oneness in another. And as we held hands and began to pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, again, everyone in their own language this time, I literally felt a current as if it was moving from my friend's hand into mine, travel up my arm, across my chest and heart space, and down my left arm and into the hand of the person next to me. And I couldn't help it. My eyes bolted open, and I'm looking to the left, and she doesn't seem to be registered. I'm looking at my friend, and she doesn't seem to be responding to this. I think I was the only one having this experience. It was visceral. It was intense. It was electric in its power of moving through my body. To be in the space of so immersed in the words of the Lord's Prayer that I felt it move through my physical being. Now, I didn't think I was there for any physical healing, but something was taking place in my body in that moment. And I have never quite forgotten the tingle, the energy, the flow, the movement, the sense of connectedness to everybody in the room, to all of life in that moment. That's the power of prayer, to deliver us into the holy space where we touch God, holding hands with one another physically or figuratively. To speak the Lord's Prayer is to draw the energy of God into your life, into your being, into your experience. So I invite your practice of prayer, especially the Lord's Prayer, or any prayer that is dear to you. Infuse it with this knowing that you are speaking words of power, words of creation. And as a vessel of God, you are a most powerful creator. You are an incredible healing force. You are the presence of God in your life and in the world. May it bless your life and the world. Namaste.